Good morning to you, how you doing? So we controlled that game against Wales. Wales didn't score in the second half. 10-7 down at half-time, win 19-10. Warren Gatland whining in the build-up. Warren Gatland whining in the aftermath. What's he saying on?
Yeah, I think you better call out what he said.
Well, Ireland went back to what they're traditionally good at. He said 85% of that second half was just off nine, and Bundy Aki was effective on the gain line. When they play a certain way, you have to be collision dominant in that area, and discipline had to be good as well. Two areas of the game that cost us. So we've tried to go out there and be positive in how we play. Generally pretty pleased. When Ireland get into that sort of game, Ireland probably give Georgia a template for how to play against us. They were effective, particularly in the second half, and basically choked us. You know, the kind of patronising. It's been effective for them.
And we weren't really trying. He said something along that way, you some guys. Anyway, he was mentioning some guys, their minds might have been on the plane.
Sorry, the other one he said is they didn't play any expansive rugby at all that troubled us out wide. So the collision dominance off nine was...
What I would ask you to ask him is what expansive rugby did they play? Well, where were they effective? They got one try in the game from an intercept, and obviously then they played right on the line, and Hadley Parks ran a great line. I think we were talking about the positives of the defence. That was a defensive error for me for Henshaw and Aki. To be fair, not more so Aki, because Aki's looking in at the ruck, and Hadley Parks runs a brilliant line here. He's got to look ahead, and I guarantee Andy Farrell will say that to him. So that was kind of the only defensive mistake we made the whole game. The defence was brilliant. And what does Warren Gatland expect Ireland to do? Throw the ball around the place and show their hand going to the World Cup? He wasn't going to do that either. But for me, to be fair, Wales had a lot of possession in the first half, and they didn't really do much for it. And I'll go back to when Ireland won. And I like Gatty, but that stuff irritated me after the game. It was condescending and it was insulting. Ireland should have scored another, should have scored definitely another one, possibly another 2 tries. Wales were completely illegal most of the game, coming in from the side, off their feet, blocking, trying to close the gap in the line-out. They were told several times about keeping the gap in the line-out. This is the stuff that they got away with in Cardiff. And fair play to them. I'd do the exact same if it was me. And I made this point that Ireland need to be more dominant in trying to manage referees and teams who are trying to frustrate them and get in their faces. And that's why I was really pleased with the second half, is their collisions that he's talking about, their carries. They'd 15 offload, they'd 5 offloads each, but they'd 15 defenders beaten. Wales had only 8. So what's he talking about? We were more expansive. They didn't go anywhere. It's fine throwing the ball around. Ireland smashed them all over the place, even in that first half when they had loads of possession. But if you go back, they won a Grand Slam. Wales won a Grand Slam in just gone by. Ireland scored 14 tries. Wales scored 10 in that Grand Slam. So he's talking about ambition. Ambition winning a Grand Slam, scoring 10 tries, no bonus point in 5 games. So what's he talking about? What way does he play? His team went out, and to be fair, they had a great win against England at home, against a very strong, powerful England side. So his team are stopping teams from playing. They're competing incredibly aggressive around the breakdown, around the fringes. They're putting massive pressure on teams. And he's saying Ireland always play like that. So Ireland beat an average of 27 defenders per match in the Six Nations. That was a disaster for us. They beat 14 defenders per match. So that doesn't make sense if he's talking about Ireland always play like this. The reason I'm going back is because he said in his words, Ireland always play like this. They went back to what they always do. Ireland averaged 184 passes per game in the Six Nations and 21 kicks, the disastrous one we just played.
Yeah.
Wales, 124 passes and 28 kicks. So they averaged 7 kicks more than Ireland in the game.
But we're the kicking team.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But look, England kicked 44 times against France when they scored 8 tries in Twickenham. So sometimes kicking can be very effective and exciting as well. So I'm not saying we're this expansive team. There's some...
Why do you think he's still having goes at
I just don't know why in a warm-up game. He's more or less saying the Wales weren't really that bothered. It's no big deal. Ireland obviously was more psychologically better for them to get a win, but it wasn't the be all and end all. So I don't know why he has to say that stuff after the game. I was more disappointed with that than any of the stuff Gatty's ever said before, because it was kind of a bit bitter, and there's a bitterness there in Warren Gatland that probably if it happened to me, what happened to him a long time ago when he got shafted here, I'd probably still hold on to it, but he's holding on to this the whole time, and I think it's very insulting that, you know, it would have been nice if he came out and gave a bit more credit to Joe Schmidt for what he's achieved, and for Rory Best, you know, in their last game there. You know, in fairness to Warren, he's achieved an incredible amount from Wales, and you can't take that away, but I just don't know why he has to come out and say that after the game. It's up for everyone else and let the reporters and the press and the people decide if we are or not. But I just thought it was a bit distasteful for him. When Ireland won a Grand Slam in 2018, you remember that one? It wasn't that long ago.
We played okay.
Right, we scored 20 tries. We had bonus point wins in 3 of the games. We didn't get a bonus point win away in Paris, and we didn't get a bonus point win away in England. But, like, winning a Grand Slam away in Paris and away in England, to me,
we killed England though.
Is a better Grand Slam than, you know, being very, very fortunate away to France.
Well, we were too now. That was Johnny Steckle's drop goal, remember?
Yeah, but I still think we were the better team in that game by a long. Wales weren't the better team in this game. France should have won that game. France handed it back to Wales. They had a 26-19 win away to Italy. We kind of scraped through Italy and there was nothing said either. Wales only scraped through that. Now, to be fair, a very good win at home to England again, and they seem to have that Indian sign in England up in Cardiff. The place is electric. 18-11 away, a poor performance away in Scotland. Could easily have lost that game as well. And they were dominant at home to Ireland. But where's the expansive rugby and all that? So it's just a complete contradiction. Rugby, sometimes you have to, ideally you'd love to go out and score 4 or 5 tries and be brilliant and have loads of flair, but it doesn't work. And, you know,
World Cups are traditionally claustrophobic. Like what'll happen now is...
They're my examples anyway of...
Fair enough.
We were not always like that.
You made the case.
We played some brilliant rugby in 2018, and we played better rugby to win a Grand Slam than Wales did, far better rugby than their Grand Slam this year, just to clear that up. So what he was saying was absolute bullshit. Rant over.
Fair enough. But he got under your skin.
Which
is exactly what he wants, right?
No, he does. What does it matter if he gets under my skin?
Because by proxy, are the Irish, is Joe Schmidt looking at that going,
no,
screw you, Gaddy?
No, he won't. The numbers and the facts are there that, you know, Ireland, the easy thing to go to, look, we are quite, we're very structured, and I think we weren't going to see an unstructured side throwing the ball all over the place the weekend. I hope at times that we have the ability to do that and play heads-up rugby when we go to the World Cup. So there's a little bit of merit that we're sometimes we're predictable, but Wales are predictable enough in what to do as well. And obviously they probably have a bit more grounds to be more positive about World Cups, getting to semi-finals themselves.
Yeah, in the past.
Haven't, so they have, yeah.
Are they heading into this World Cup more positive than we are? They probably aren't. I mean, the injuries they have at this stage starting to mount up, aren't they?
I think Anscombe is a big loss to them, there's no doubt about it. Patchell picked up a head knock at the weekend. I'm a big fan of Dan Bigger. He's a great player to have on, but Faletau is a loss to him as well, you know, so... They're in good shape, and you know one thing about Wales, when they go to World Cups, to be fair, they have incredible belief, and they can turn it on, so they're capable of that.
If we were we've been talking about this earlier, so we're not springing this on you, well, we are, but if you were to pick one of these two teams has to win the World Cup, England or Wales, who is it?
To win it, to make a choice.
Who'd you be happier as an Irishman to see win?
Jesus. That's a tough one.
It is, isn't it?
It's a tough one.
Go on.
I think...
Which would be the worst? That's the question, really.
Well, England would probably sicken us, wouldn't they, if they won it, but I honestly don't think.
I'd much prefer England to win the World Cup than Wales to win the World Cup.
Yeah, I don't want. I'm kind of not like that. I hate them and I hate them.
No, I know, but you'd have to llisten to the Welsh forever.
Yeah, I like Alan Quinlan. He's a good fella. I played
No,
against
but
him a
he's
long
not going to
time.
be the one you meet in the pub going, we won the World Cup. It's going to be everybody else from Wales.
Yeah, and it'll be a tricky one for either of them to win it, but.
It'll be Gareth and Gethin in Slattery's before the game next year.
They could play They could potentially play in a quarter-final.
You're not answering us here. I noticed that. You've managed to filibuster for a minute and a half.
Right. Okay. I'm going with England as well.
Right. Yeah. Definitely.
I have too many friends. I have a lot of friends in England, so I'll go with England.
Let's talk about Ireland, right? Because we were picking our team earlier on, and there's a bit of a debate about the back row. The point about playing O'Mahony at 7 was to give himself a sense of we have depth at 7 that we don't have if we only have 1 7 in the squad. So now he's looking at that as 2. And obviously Rhys Ruddock has played at 7 in international rugby successfully in the past. It's a while ago now, but we've heard that there's been this absolute fascination with collisions and a power game in Irish rugby in the management of Irish
lost
rugby.
it. We've lost that power game and that collision-based game.
And so
we need something different. We need that. We need the physicality, but we need variety on that. On our attack that Roger's talking about a little bit with the back line and stuff.
So, but having O'Mahony at 7 gives you Conan and Stander in the team at the same time.
Yeah.
And so suddenly that beefs up that a little bit, and suddenly your bench has Kilcoyne, who's going to be not
serious impact.
Yeah, exactly. And Cronin. And who else is your third?
Andrew Porter.
So there's power coming off the bench, and you're going to have Klein coming off the bench, or Klein starting,
or maybe Klein and Byrne coming off the bench, or
maybe he leaves Henderson off the bench.
Or you could have Ruddock. I thought Ruddock put his hand up on Saturday with some of the tackles and the energy he brought. So it's.
Are we going to play a more power-based game and hope that the creativity emerges over the course of this? Would you expect the starting back row, for example, against Scotland, to include Conan and O'Mahony and Stander, or does Van der Fleer start?
I think Van der Fleer starts against Scotland, given the fact that they're dangerous at the breakdown, and with respect to them, and they probably look at us the same. It's not a South Africa or New Zealand you're playing, or in England, a massive, dominant, big, physically powerful team where you have to meet fire with fire. I think, either side can match each other physically. So I think Van der Fleer just being that natural 7, and I thought he played well, and I love the fact that in some of the wider channels that he got his hands on the ball, because he's actually a very good runner with the ball. He's really quick.
Made about 60
and he got
yards at one point.
couple of lovely offloads and stuff like that. That's exactly what you want from your back row, Ger. So we're talking about expanse of game, is having a Conan or Stander or a Van der Fleer with a bit of width, where you're playing a 1-3-3, one kind of scenario with your forwards, where you kind of have them in different sections, and that you have pods being able to hit, and then you have someone in the wider channel with a bit of power running a hard line, or putting it behind him to wingers or centres, or hitting them up and trying to isolate them and getting them running at backs, if you like. They might get their hands through for offloads. That's how you get a little bit of expanse. It's just getting those setups and that structure right, where your kind of pods in the middle of the field are effective. And I think our expansive approach, I think we will see different stuff, but it's very much dependent on our set piece, our good scrum, getting the right angle up on the tight head side with Furlong, and winning good line-up ball. And then you'll see a chance to kind of go. And to be fair, if they get on the front foot and they can really kind of be efficient at the breakdown, they're capable of. They struggle on it with slow ball, and sometimes we try to play it too much when it's slow, and we should kick more when it's slow and sluggish. But the expansive style is sometimes it is one-out runners with no variety on it. Little tip-on passes. Every team has to, bash it up at times, and I just think we don't put a variety on our carries and stuff enough. And if our ball is slowed down, I think we should just stop playing and just kick it and be patient. And hopefully will it be enough for us to get past the quarter-final? I don't know, but I think they are capable of playing if games open up, there's enough good footballers there capable of playing attacking brand and expansive rugby.
Like, there is question marks still about what Schmidt might have up his sleeve in terms of doing something different, bringing that variety to Ireland's play. And one of the obvious points that was brought up, especially after the England game in the Six Nations, was the kicking game. We box kick too much. We don't actually make them turn their back enough. Like, Jack Carty, I think, was actually really impressive. There's one kick in particular where Wales had to turn their play, and it just turned them around. Like, it was just over the top of them. It was something that wasn't a box kick.
And as a forward, and I tell you, that's an incredibly positive kick for a pack of forwards who are... I'll give you an example. Last week in Wales, when Wales were breaking up the touchline the second half and the ball is lobbed in field, James Ryan catches it. I don't know if you remember going backwards. We were under massive pressure. We set up the ruck. The ball is back to Carty and he kicks it straight up the middle of the field. He needs to put that in row Z. Forward one, thank you for that, because James Ryan is getting up off the ground after kind of intercepting the ball, and he's got to go tackling again off the same phase of play. You got to put them in the stand. So he would have learned from that and probably been shown that if we turn the ball over and if we stop an attack and we win the ball, we've got to then, that's managing tempo then. That's how you manage tempo with a fly half. You put it in the stand and forwards get up and they're going that way, they're going forward, as opposed to, God, I'm going to attacking again, there's a wave of attack coming. But that little kick that you're talking about on Saturday was brilliant. It was a real... Wales are going backwards, Ireland are going forward. It's a momentum shifter, and that's kind of good game management. And I think sometimes, because 18 was so good, and I said this a few times during the Six Nations, we actually tried to keep holding on to the ball, keep building phases, negative phases, ones that are not going over the gain line, where just kick. Be patient, get in the right areas, try and find a bit of territory. I know you always have to play a couple of phases to try and bring up wingers, and you can give a couple of passes and bring Carney as an option with the left foot as well. But that was good for Jack Carty the other day, and overall I thought it was a very, very impressive, important second half. Not the first half, because we couldn't really get the ball back off Wales, and Wales are a good side, they're
a great side. Yeah,
they're not a brilliant side who play this brilliant brand of rugby all the time.
No, but they're really good. They're
a good side. And to be fair, Tipperick and Ross Moriarty and Navidi, when he plays, they're very effective. Alan Wynne Jones, Baird, they're good players, but they're not players that'd scare you or frighten you. And they can do a job, and they're well capable of beating anybody.
I made the point earlier on that Joe Schmidt was obviously leaving the Aviva for the last time as the Ireland coach, that irrespective of the Grand Slam and the 2 championships and the wins against New Zealand, all that stuff, if we don't get past the quarterfinal of the World Cup, it's the World Cups that are going to define his legacy for us. Yeah,
unfortunately for him, and it's probably harsh in a way, because it has been an incredibly positive number of years for Irish rugby.
He's our best ever Irish coach.
Yeah, he is, and there's no point in people will jump. The negativity will escalate if we don't, and it'll be, the naysayers will jump on that. And look, not getting past the quarterfinal is not good enough for Ireland. I think there's been a bit of bad fortune and maybe bottling it at times, and maybe not turning up on the day after maybe sometimes having good wins in pool matches, and it just gone freezing in the quarter-final stage. It's never happened, and it's going to be incredibly difficult for it to happen again, and it'll be unfair in a way, but that is the nature. Joe knows that himself. I assume that if he finishes on, going out in the quarter-final, that it will be kind of a stick that he'll be beaten with going forward. And that's just the reality of it, the kind of ruthless nature of it. But
how do they make sure that pressure doesn't become completely all-encompassing? Because we did a piece recently with Peter O'Mahony where he was talking about this pressure, and he was talking about being nearly sick before games, and from the whole time they're in the Shelbourne, there's just this kind of constant black cloud of intense atmospheric pressure that never really leaves. So if that's what they feel in Six Nations games, imagine what it's going to be like for an Ireland.
But there is, look, you want pressure when you,
a World Cup quarterfinal.
Yeah, but you want pressure. You want to manage that pressure, and that's where Enda McNulty would be important. The other coaches chatting amongst the players themselves. ultimately, it's a pressure cooker. A World Cup is a pressure cooker, and it's probably extra for Ireland because, given the story going right back, I was there in Lons in '99. I was in the squad where Argentina beat us, absolute disaster. I've never seen the dressing room as bad, even after finals we lost. '03 was, after a positive pool stage, getting the win against Argentina. Very, very unlucky against Australia in the fourth game. Should have won that game. I think Hump's ball goes over the bar. If you had a bit of Hawkeye, would have been called for to win the game.
I think that one went over anyway. I'm the only one.
Yeah.
They never showed a replay of it.
No, they didn't. And it was that. If they won that, we would have played Scotland in the quarter-final. We came second in the group. We played France, and I was back home at that stage. I left after the Aussie game, and that was. France were brilliant on the day in the semi-final, and in the quarter-finals, Ireland were poor. 07 tells its own story, didn't get out of the group. 2011, I worked at 2011, I was literally just retired, very short time, went to the World Cup, and the win against Australia in Eden Park was fantastic. And I really fancied our chances against the Wales in Wellington. And maybe it's all that psychological stuff that Gatty throws in. He's setting seeds of doubt for future possibilities.
Yeah. Oh, no, totally.
And to be fair to them, they kind of totally hijacked that game with the chop tackle, just pressure in the Irish players' faces, and they couldn't play. And they won that. 2015, then, the loss against Argentina. When again you'd fancy Ireland at that stage, I thought the injuries didn't help them. So we haven't delivered, and we haven't got past the quarter-final, and that's going to be there unless we change it, and that's the tag. So,
is it a good World Cup if they make a World Cup semi-final?
If they make a World Cup semi-final, it's an incredible World Cup. And if they make a World Cup semi-final, I think they'll be playing Australia
rather than England.
Yeah, England are on the other side. If they win the group, they play. If they win the group, England will end up probably meeting New Zealand, because they'll be playing the quarter-final winner of New Zealand and Scotland. So England would probably be playing New Zealand.
Right.
There's a lot of ifs and givens.
Yeah, sure.
But I think if I was to pick 4 semi-finalists, I'd be saying it'd be England v New Zealand, and Ireland stroke South Africa v Australia.
Yeah, you would take that at this stage.
Okay, Ireland stroke South Africa, that means the quarter-final against South Africa. But listen, we could be playing New Zealand in the quarter-final, so whoever it is, it's going to be incredibly difficult to get past that quarter-final.
A couple of quick comments here. Lenny disagrees with this. Legacy coming down to the next 2 months, that's very wide of the mark. It isn't. It's just that's how sport works. It will always be, did great, best coach ever, but actually ultimately failed the 2 times he had a World Cup.
It wasn't good enough to get past, and it's unfair. I think it's unfair.
Yeah, but
that's reality. You were talking about what's going to happen.
That's the ball.
Tell Lenny.
Yeah. I thought Conan played well, as did the entire team, in fairness. We were talking about Conan and whether or not he might have played his way into the starting team.
He was quiet but effective and good, and I think there's more to come from him. It's very unfair to say, Jack Conan was quiet for 2 games. It takes a bit of time to get up and running. I think he'll be much better for it, and I think the Conan standard scenario can work. It worked in Australia in the 3rd test, so I'm a big fan of Conan as well.
Music says, Joe's done an amazing job, sacrificed his family for Irish rugby, beat the All Blacks twice at Grand Slam, championships. Yes, we're all rugby coaches now, but I think Joe will have the last laugh. Well, I think we all want him to not have the legacy of being beaten in a quarter-final.
We all want him to have the last laugh, and it'd be fantastic. And what would we say? It was a master plan all along.
Dave Kelly says, neither Conan or CJ has played well at 8 in recent games. Has Ruddock ever played at 8?
I think he has played at 8, before.
He played in the second row as well. Damien Moignier says, all Wales do is stop other teams playing. Stop this holding the ball carrier up in the tackle. Ugly rugby. Wales will be found out at the Rugby World Cup. I think being one in the world but being overlooked by most due to perceived issues with ranking system and hammering away to England will suit us. We had the confidence but aren't taken too seriously, says Elm 2018. And what about Ringrose on the wing?
Ringrose on the wing could be an option.
Is Earls all right?
I'm not sure, to be honest. He looked very uncomfortable and frustrated coming back at the weekend. And then, if he's out now for a couple of weeks and misses the Scottish game, it's kind of frustrating for him. trying to work her way back. Ringrose is an option on the wing. Yeah, he has the ability. He played for Leinster there when he kind of came on the scene first and was brilliant on the wing for Leinster. Aki and Henshaw, I thought, played well. Ringrose can come back in there, absolutely no problem. And I think he's an incredible player. I think the confrontational stuff and the bit of old Munster rugby that I'd like to see, I don't want to see expansive rugby. I would love to see us kicking it up in the air and smashing teams.
Can we win a quarter-final without Gary Ringrose? Like, so if we're gonna have our best ever World Cup, Ringrose needs to be our player of the tournament. In a way, we need his creativity to be the thing that is the 2 extra passes that come into a move that get us over the line against New Zealand or the Springboks.
It's a very valid point. I think when you take a talented, evasive, gifted player out of a midfield and you put in a bit more robust, like Aki probably is a very talented footballer and can offload, and he has that ability to do all that stuff. Neither are as creative as Robbie or as Gary Ringrose. Robbie Henshaw is a brilliant player as well. He's all action. I just think that subtle little bit of unlock a defence, take on a defender one-on-one. Ringrose can do that better than the others. I think Chris Farrell is someone who you can't rule out for having an impact here either, because
I can see him playing those.
He'll get options there, and you never know if someone like Farrell could feature against South Africa. So I think ultimately when we play South Africa, we can't just go, well, they're big, they're aggressive, they're strong. We have to put Chris Farrell in, Ruddock in, Klein in, O'Mahony at 7. We've got to be careful with that.
This is the last time you're both in studio for us this week. It's the last time you're together in studio. The next time you're
Well, I'm here Friday again,
right.
And, so Owen is off on Wednesday.
I'll do the leg work before you get there in Japan, Quinny. Don't worry about that.
We're sending you off early
nice
there.
restaurants.
All right.